Voicing for update on house credit deduction for taxes. Hello. If you bought a house last year, maybe you can apply for a credit deduction. It could be up to $8,000, but first you have to make sure you qualify. You have to provide proof. In 2008, it started because the economy declined. The house market was slow, so they wanted to encourage everybody to buy houses. They made different offers on tax credits and stuff. I'm going to tell you a little bit how you can get qualified. First, if you sign up, you have to sign. You can't delay it. By September 30th, 2010. You can't delay that because if a lot of people do that, the houses might go into foreclosure. It wouldn't be worth it for the bank, and things would fall apart. So that's why that has to happen. So if you qualify for that, that's fine. There's two different tax credits. One is for first-time house owners. The other one is for people that have already bought a house and are ready to move to a new one. New house owners can get up to 8% tax credit. If you're going to apply for this credit, you couldn't have owned a house 3 years prior to that. For example, 8 years ago, that would be 2002. Now it's 2010. So if you lived in the house from 2004 to 2009 and then it sold, you're fine, you qualified. And if your husband or wife qualified, then that's fine. You can get up to 10%. It must be less than $800,000. If you're married, your total income has to be $225,000 or less. There's different rules if you qualify before February 6th, so you should check that out. But this year, you have to start paying it back. In 2008, when they took the credit deduction, they didn't have insurance. So this year, they're starting to pay it back. And that's starting now in 2010, you have to pay it back. H&R Block figured that there's a lot of people that filed for that. And while they're going to be stuck, they're going to have to pay that money back. A lot of 750 people applied, and now they're going to have to pay it back every year for 15 years. If you sold it in 2008, you can't pay it back in increments. You have to pay it back in one huge chunk. So it's different. You have to be staying in the house for 3 years. Then you don't have to pay it back in one chunk. But if you leave before 3 years, you have to pay the whole chunk back. The IRS is also wanting paper proof of that. Meaning you can't have it through the computer. You have to do the paperwork. It's because last year a lot of people, wanted to get the tax credit and take advantage of that. And a lot of those people were criminals that lived in jail. So that was a silly reason. They were just trying to get the money. There are different forms that you can get. You can collect them from different places like the bank or an insurance company. And there's a certain place that you can sign on those. If it's a newly constructed house, you have to have that certification, with your name and the house address and signatures. If you're a second-time house owner, you have had to live in the previous house 5 years. And all of these things you have to prove on paper. Collect them all up, the house insurance, make sure you pay that and have evidence of that. Collect all these different pieces of evidence. And if you have that, and if you can collect it all together and show that you've been there for 5 years, then you're good. You can put that stuff through the computer and it will go a lot quicker. It could be done in less than 2 weeks. But the paper process requires a lot more time. You could wait up to 6 weeks. The IRS really wants to check and make sure that they're qualified. It's worth it, but you have to be patient. So I just wanted to make sure that you fully understand everything about the tax credit.